Hey film buffs, welcome back to Film Feature 43. Today I decided to put on my festive orange and talk about another Christmas movie. It's the week of Christmas, so I decided what better movie to talk about than the one that we all think of when we think of made-for-TV movies based around Christmas, based on old Christmas holiday classics. No, not that one. Not that one either. Okay, let me give you a hint. It's got Santa Claus and reindeer and Christmas almost being ruined before it's saved at the last minute. You got it? Yeah, you're probably right. You're thinking of Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer. I'm gonna be honest with you. I vaguely remember this movie from whenever I was a kid, and my wife had never seen it, so I picked it up from the bargain bin at Walmart and decided to watch it to show her what this holiday classic was really about, and quickly came to find out that it is no Rankin nor Bass holiday classic. It's a movie, and it's centered around Christmas and Santa Claus. So I figured what movie to better poke fun at and talk about on this channel than Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. So if you need an overview of what the song's about, Grandma gets drunk on eggnog, goes out without her medicine, everybody begs her to stay, and she gets run over by Santa Claus in his sleigh. So, how could they stretch us out to an hour and 30-minute movie? Let's find out.
It was December, and everyone in Cityville was caught up in the chaos of the holidays.
So right off the bat, we find out how clever the naming director was for this film, because we zoom into Cityville, where the Spankenheimers are getting ready for Christmas by decorating, and they're helped by their dog Doofus, and everything that I said in that last sentence is 100% accurate. They live in Cityville, their name is Spankenheimers, and they have a dog named Doofus. So, right off the bat, we know what caliber of creativity we're going to have for this film. But I guess at least there is no big, by and large corporation that owns everything, and it's named something like Own All Corporation or something like that.
You're looking at the new inflatable Christmas tree manufactured by the Cityville Own All Corporation.
Oh, well, never mind. Anyway, like you just heard, they are putting up an inflatable Christmas tree from the Own All Corporation, and Jake, whose one character trait is he's the only person that still believes in Santa Claus, and Grandpa are very upset that they're not going out to get a real tree. Jake's upset because real trees remind him of Christmas of old, and Grandpa's upset because
We had to chop our trees down by hand. Never forget the time I had to use a beaver for a chainsaw.
Last time you told it was a woodpecker.
because apparently he can't use a beaver or a woodpecker to cut down the tree. We also find out very quickly that Grandma owns the only property in the city not owned by the Own All Corporation, and Austin Bucks, who is the CEO of Own All, wants to change that.
Grandma says you own everything.
Well, not yet, but that's why I want to speak to your grandma.
Grandma isn't selling, and that doesn't set well for the money-grubbing antagonist of our film, Cousin Mel.
Grandma, if this store were mine, I'd sell it.
Cousin Mel, this store will never be yours.
Everyone calls her Cousin Mel. Grandma calls her that. Jake calls her that. So I'm not exactly sure whose cousin she is. And also everybody knows that she's a gold-digging money grubber. And Grandma still allows her to work at the store. So I'm not really sure what the motivation behind that is, what kind of dirt she has on Grandma. But as quickly as I'm going to cut to a different topic, so do they with this weird song about how awful fruitcake is.
Tougher than a truckload of all beef jerky, drier than a drought in Albuquerque, Grandma's killer fruitcake.
And I guess that's a segue for us to see that Mel poisoned Grandma's fruitcake. We finally get what we've all been waiting for, the characters to specifically act out every line of Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer.
She'd been drinking too much eggnog.
You've been drinking too much eggnog.
And we begged her not to
Please,
go.
don't go!
But she forgot her medication.
Besides, I left my
And
medication
she
at the
staggered
store.
out the door into the snow.
Which raises a few questions. One, I don't think Grandpa cares about Grandma too much because he begs her not to go, but then doesn't go with her or try to stop her in any way other than begging. And also,
You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe.
He and Jake are the only two that see Grandma get ran over by Santa Claus, and neither one of them rush out directly to help the old lady who got hit with a couple 100-pound sleigh who's laying face down in the snow. So I don't think Grandma and Grandpa really get along that well. After Santa crushes this old lady with his sleigh, she disappears.
That's right, officer. Missing. Hit by Santa's sleigh. Yes, we've been drinking eggnog.
The father of Jake calls the police, and the police say that they'll be out in the morning, which is odd to me because with a missing person, I would assume the police would immediately come out. I've heard of police checking on incidences where the phone was accidentally not dialed as 911, so them not coming out at all with a missing persons report seems a little odd to me, especially with the sleigh tracks and the person's body outline in the snow. You think that they would get there a little bit faster, but they don't show up till the next morning.
Sorry, son. Impossible. Right here in the manual. There's no such thing as Santa Claus.
And if this was made today, the male officer would be played by Patrick Warburton for sure.
Right.
And as I mentioned, they find her shoes, they find her cocoa, they find her fruitcake.
What appears to be an impression of a person in the snow. Look there, but how do we know it's Grandma?
They see tracks in the snow leading away. They see an imprint of her in the snow, and they don't start looking immediately for Santa Claus or a Santa Claus impersonator or just a guy who owns a sleigh and horses or reindeer or anything like that. Nobody really seems to care that Grandma's missing for some reason. Months pass and Grandma's store starts to fail, I guess because no one is willing to dress up as an elf and bake nasty fruitcakes for people. I guess those were the only two things that were keeping the business afloat. But nonetheless, Evil Mel tries to sell the business to the not-so-evil CEO of OAC, and he shuts her down saying that Grandpa is the only one who has his name on the store.
It's right here in these papers. All you have to do is sign.
Sing?
No, sign.
And while Mel is tricking Grandpa into signing the store over to her,
Grandma's hanging out with all those late great stars for the heavenliest Christmas of her life.
Grandpa starts singing this song about his mostly assuredly dead wife and about how she's singing with superstars in heaven because she's definitely dead. Which leads me to think that Grandpa knows a little bit more than he's letting on. But nonetheless, he signs over the business thinking that he's doing the right thing and the thing that Grandma would want him to do. And Jake rushes in to stop everything from happening.
Please don't buy Grandma's store.
If you really believe Grandma was run over by Santa's reindeer, then find him. He should know where Grandma is.
Okay, I will.
And Bucks Aplenty gives him 1 week to find his grandma if he knows for sure that she was run over by Santa Claus. This gives Jake the gumption to start looking for her and writes a letter to Santa in September, which you think he would have started doing back in December when he knew that it was Santa who ran over Grandma in the first place.
Grandma Spankenheimer?
Nope, never met her. But you might ask one of those short fellers.
Classic case of amnesia. Can't remember a thing.
We find out that Santa Claus kidnapped Grandma after running her over with his sleigh. And Santa Claus knew what house she came from, the house that she was in the yard for, and never went and knocked on the door or really tried to drop her back off later in the year. Seems kind of odd. He left a note, but it was outside, and nobody went out until the next morning to check on it. That note could have been long gone or ruined in the snow. Santa would have never knew, and he knew what house she came from, so I don't understand why he didn't try to make any kind of contact. But the North Pole doesn't reach out to anyone until Jake sends a letter to Santa Claus, and then the head elf brings Jake to the North Pole, breaking elf code by bringing a human to the North Pole. But Santa did the same thing. Santa brought a human to the North Pole. And from this picture, it looks like there's at least 3 humans there. But 2 of them might be elves. I'm not sure. And if that's the case, that's probably why Grandma still has amnesia.
It's me, Jake. Don't you remember?
Nope.
I mean, she's being treated by elves who've only ever treated elves before, they're not human doctors. I'm assuming elf anatomy is different than human anatomy, so Grandma might have been back to normal health if she was taken to a regular hospital like she should have been. So I think Santa isn't entirely not to blame here. I mean, he did kidnap her instead of taking her to get treatment, but whatever. They decide to take her back to prove that she's still alive and that Santa took her to begin with. And they rush back to the human world to prove that Grandma is still alive, to stop the sale of her business, and she's kidnapped for the second time in 1 year by evil Cousin Mel and evil Cousin Mel's slimy lawyer, who is named Slime. Again, great naming.
Since Grandma is nowhere to be found, and the man in the red suit here admitted he ran over her, I demand that you have Santa arrested for the disappearance of Grandma.
And everyone skips over the fact that Santa Claus is real, and this isn't some impersonator impersonating Santa Claus, and they arrest him for negligent slay homicide or something like that.
Slayicular negligence?
Thank you. And we get by far the best song in the entire movie. Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa.
Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa. That's what Grandpa's gonna do. Woo-hoo! Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa, 'cause Grandma would have wanted him to.
Because, you know, Santa's probably worth a lot of money, makes a lot of toys, so you sue based on how much the person's worth, not based on the damages that they caused, or something like that. Anyway, the fruitcake snaps Grandma back to reality, and we find out that the reason that the reindeer swooped down 9 months ago was because the stuff that Cousin Mel poisoned the fruitcake with was very similar to reindeer nip. That's why they were flying so low, enough to hit an elderly woman in her driveway, which may be the most troubling point in the entire movie, because we find out that the reindeer can talk.
Couldn't control myself.
And if they have the cognition to be able to talk, one, they never told Santa why they were so low to run over this woman, which is odd. But two, they have the smarts to be able to talk and have that higher cognition, but they can't control themselves when faced with deer nip.
Oh no! Reindeer nip! Not again!
Grandma got run over by a
And we know that they can't control themselves because we bookend the story with Grandma being run over once again by reindeer because she never learned her lesson and opened the tainted fruitcake with the deer nip in once again. So that's pretty sad that the reindeer are smart enough to talk, but they can't control themselves around deer nip. But all's well that ends well. Grandma gets to keep her store. Austin Bucks is still filthy rich. Everybody knows that Santa Claus exists. And
arrest this woman for obstructing justice and almost ruining Christmas.
That's what you get for being selfish and stupid.
Cousin Mel's going to prison for a very, very long time. And I think that's the true meaning of Christmas. Anyway, that's Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer. Let me know if you guys have seen this one before, what you think of it. I just want to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and have a happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.